Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. By all means, tell us where you are. We'd love to have you post in the comments. I'm Catherine Mattice. I'm the founder and CEO of Civility Partners. We are focused on building positive work environments. And I am honored today to have Grayson Lafrenz. He is the CEO of Power Digital, and he delivered a panel related to how his culture has helped him grow. And so I asked him to be on my show. So thank you, Grayson, for being with me today.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine, for having me on. Love talking about talent, people, culture, and all that. So excited to be here with you.
Yeah, that came through in the panel. So tell us first a little bit about what Power Digital does.
Yeah, so Power Digital is a tech-enabled service business, and our technology platform is called Nova, and it really sits at the core of everything we do and really helps fuel growth, product quality, innovation, et cetera, and a lot of talent management as well. But the revenue model is performance marketing services. So we work with brands, typically brands that are 250 million plus in revenue, and we help them scale and acquire more customers, the right type of customers, drive lifetime value and loyalty of those customers, and really grow revenue in a profitable fashion.
Okay, so this is awesome. And for any entrepreneurs out there, Grayson has achieved so much over the course of his life. 2012 is when you started Power Digital, you said, and then you were at $1 million within a year or two. How did you do that? Because I know most of us entrepreneurs have not done that.
Yeah, so I got introduced to entrepreneurship when I was in college at the University of Arizona. And I was really attracted to it. And actually, kind of a long roundabout answer to your question is I graduated college in 2007, and I tried to start my first business. And it was going to be an online prep course to help prepare high school students to be more successful in college. I had some friends that were not overly successful in college, or they failed out, or they couldn't handle it, or whatever. And so really felt there was a big opportunity there. And so as I was trying to raise money to do that, I got rejected a bunch of times. And finally, I got in front of a entrepreneur that I really admired and respected. And he told me, he said, Grayson, you've got a lot of tenacity, and drive, and you go for it. But, you have zero skill set. You have zero track record of success. And dude, it's 2007. It's a terrible economic time. No one's going to invest in an idea that you have with no skill set or track record of success. Yeah. And so I asked him, if I want to be an entrepreneur, what's the best skill set that I should get? And he told me, you need to learn how to manage and develop talent and be a great leader of people. And you need to learn how to be a rainmaker and really drive sales and revenue. And so I went and got a job and learned those skills and started several different companies, some that were not successful and some that were successful. And that led up to starting Power Digital with two co-founders in November, I believe, of 2012. And, we just really focused on our financial model, really focused on those leading indicators that drive the performance and building a great team. And so it was all just organic early on, just, helping find great brands that want more growth, helping show them how they can do it, doing great work for them and keeping them, growing that relationship, and just adding new ones. And it's a reoccurring revenue model. So if you're doing a great job at retaining the clients and you're continuing to add new great clients and growing those partnerships, it compounds and creates a compounding growth effect.
Yeah, that's a great model. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. We're, professional services, consulting, still trying to wrap my head around how can I, have recurring revenue and some sort of subscription model. So it sounds like you are an entrepreneur at heart. You were an entrepreneur from the get-go. Early in college, you were already looking at, I want to be an entrepreneur. What would you say for others, young professionals out there thinking, I have an idea, I want to be an entrepreneur? What's that first step look like?
Yeah, so I made a lot of mistakes probably and had a lot of learnings in that journey. I think one of them is, when I was graduating college and a young person in 2007, it was like Facebook and all these unicorns. And so the first couple of companies I tried to start, the reality is I was kind of reinventing the wheel or trying to be super innovative. And I kind of missed on a few of them. And they were businesses that were going to require a lot of fundraising and many, many years of growth to ever be profitable. And so one thing I would recommend is to not do that and to focus on something where, maybe you go and get a job and you learn and develop some skills and superpowers. And then, finding something where there's clearly a market and clearly a problem that you can do better and solve for, and where you can get this business profitable and sustainable quickly.
Okay.
And so a couple of reasons why. One is, especially as you're early in your journey, I think raising capital can be very difficult for people because they don't have the track record of success. They don't maybe have the network. But also, if you start raising capital early, you're diluting yourself right off the bat. And ultimately, you may not be an entrepreneur anymore. You're probably going to have a boss that, kind of takes that piece away. Right. So I think that's the biggest thing. The other thing for young people, and I think I was lucky to do this, is, I worked for 3 years, only job I've ever had right out of college, from 2007 to 2010. And I just stockpiled cash, and I really focused on learning, and not a lot of cash. Maybe I had 150 grand in the bank. I don't know. But it enabled me to then have multiple swings at it and fail multiple times and not make money for multiple years. So I was able to live off what I had. I mean, it's hard to see your savings dwindle, but right. I was able to take risks with my time and do it multiple times. And I think that's really important, because I think if you're trying to go into entrepreneurship and you've only got a personal financial runway of one attempt, you've got a very low likelihood that it's going to work, and you're probably going to fail and then go get a job, and that'll be that. If you can make it so you can have 3 or 4 swings in that runway, your odds go way up of having a couple lessons or failures and then ultimately finding that fit. And so some of that, I think, was a little bit of dumb luck for me. But being able to take that risks with my time and have multiple swings and having a foundational trained skill set, I think gave me a big advantage and allowed me to ultimately, fail my way, I guess, towards success.
Right. Okay. I did a different route. I got out of grad school and decided I was passionate about a topic, and started a business around it and taught college for quite a while I was building. And it was very scary to let go of the college teaching, because it was not good money, but it was steady money. Yeah. So Power Digital is huge. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you. You are an entrepreneur who has achieved something many entrepreneurs want to achieve. You're a large company, you're still growing. Tell me, as a culture consultant, I need to know, how has culture played a role in your success?
Yeah, it's been the number one factor to our success, 100%. Our business at the end of the day is a service business. Yeah, there's technology that helps us, but it's all about people. And we really believe that if you have the best team, the most talented group of people, you're aligned on a bigger vision and mission. People are focused on the team winning, and they understand that as the team wins, they win. And as the team loses, then we lose. People don't have egos. They're self-aware. They're coachable. And you stick together, then you're going to be successful, more times than not. And, I'm a millennial myself. And I think that my generation, the generation below, has had a lot of, gets a lot of flack. Some of it's very fair, for sure. But the reality is that group is very different, and it could, in a very good way, in my opinion. And so people don't want to be a spoke in the wheel. So transparency in your culture is very critical. We share our financials with the whole company. We always have. And part of that is so that they can become more business savvy, but part of it is so that, it's their business. We're all on the same team. And the reality is, if one department's doing well, but another is failing, it doesn't matter necessarily. Yeah. We need it to all come together and win. And you need a lot of things and a lot of talented people to go right for that to happen. So since the beginning, we've really focused on getting the right people. And I think it starts with developing core values. And at Power Digital, it's the rules that we live by, and making sure that you don't ever waver on those. So it's easy to get enamored by background or skill set, but the reality is somebody can be the most talented marketer in the world, for example, or salesperson or whatever. But if they don't match your core values, it's not going to work out. So it starts with that. It starts with treating people the way you want to be treated. I think really caring about them and understanding what are their career, what are their life goals. And I think as entrepreneurs, or even a manager, at the end of the day, your number one job is to help your team members win and accomplish the things that they want to accomplish in their life. Yeah. And to me, that's really motivating and exciting. And so we've been able to put tools and processes and people in place to be able to do that at scale, because it gets harder to do. and we had things that worked for us with 20 people or 50 people
Yeah.
that didn't work very well at 100 or 200 or 300. So it has to evolve, and, what got you here won't get you there. You got to kind of constantly look in the mirror and say, is this still working? Or even if it's working, is it still the best way to do it? Or is there a better way to do it? And then to have more dedicated folks where their whole job is employee experience and development and, really putting an intentional focus on that.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask because I'm a team of 6 total, and I have my own personal goals. They have their personal goals, and it's easy for all of us to be very vocal about our goals and help each other achieve them. And so good to hear how to scale that. So then if I'm at the top of 100-person company, I need other people in place to help make sure that still lives on, because I very much would want that to still live on. When I saw you speak before, you talked about the 5 vital signs, which really caught my attention and how that plays out. So will you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we have two things that are tied around that have worked really well for us. And the Vital 5 is the first one. And I think we probably started doing that maybe in 2014 or 2015. And actually what happened is I believe it was EO, Entrepreneur Organization member, had told me, because we've always had a younger team. Our industry typically is tech, and especially early on as you're starting, a lot of times you got to make it work with less experienced people because just budgetarily. And this guy told me that, watch, you're going to have team members just leave after a couple of years. Grass is always greener. Young people do that. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I don't think it needs to be that way. And so I started to, over winter break, we used to do a winter break back then. I think we took 2 weeks off. Nice. But I was just hanging out around the house, and I was thinking, hey, putting myself, because I was that person. Yeah. And I was like, what would keep me there? And what are the, maybe what are the really key things that we can identify with them and really help them accomplish that would make them never want to leave our company? Mm-hmm. And that's how the Vital 5 came to be. And so the first one is their earning goal for the year. So we have I think comp plans are very important for companies too. And having comp plans that don't cap a person, but really tie what drives your economic engine in your business with how they make money. So there's great alignment. So the first one is, what is your earning goal for the year? Mm-hmm. And we do this every year with every team member, where you would be thrilled if you earn this amount of money. And that way we can track against that, quarterly, monthly. We can show them ways they can maximize their comp plan, and we can really help them maximize their earning potential and hit what their goal is.
I have a question about that. Do people ever put in a ridiculous number where somebody has to say, well, that's probably more like a 3-year goal, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's pretty funny. The first 2 years we get it, everybody hit. And then people realized that we work really hard to help them hit. And we started to see some clever folks that had some outrageous 200% year-over-year growth. But that's a great thing, because, the last thing you want to do as a leader in management is put your head in the sand. Just because it's like sales, where people are like, well, I don't want to ask that. It might lead to an objection. Well, I think you'd much rather know what it is and be able to address it. So it actually leads to some great redirects and just helping people understand and, finding that right fit. So yeah, that does happen more recently.
Okay.
So last few years. But then the second goal, and they're not necessarily in this order, but the second one is, skill set development. So what are the 1 or 2 things that you really want to learn and become a master of? They don't even need to have to do with a person's job. So for example, we've had people where it's around real estate and buying a home and that process. But what we found, and this is really true for me, is when I don't feel like I'm learning or being challenged, I get bored and I can check out or lose interest or not be as driven or passionate. And with my generation and below, I think it's a real thing. People want to develop, they want to grow, they want to make impact. Yeah. And I think entrepreneurs aren't entrepreneurial enough when looking at their cultures. Mm-hmm. And we have such a big network and so many resources that we can pull in and bring in programming or speakers. It doesn't cost anything. It's just being a little bit creative and clever and help team members learn these things. Mm-hmm. So that's the second one. And usually there's 2, and we really help them master and develop and learn those things. Okay. The third one is a vision statement, more so than a goal. So it's a vision statement for what they want their role in the company to look like in a year from that date. And so what that helps to flush out is, where do they see themselves on the path to leadership within our company? And we've got, graphics of it. And so people can see different paths they can take. It's one of the great things about being a rapidly growing company is there's always opportunities for people because you need more leadership. There's new functions, there's new roles.
Right.
And so we have them tell us the vision. And so it helps us tell, do they want to be an individual contributor? Or do they want to be a manager? And it leads to these really good convos where then we can coach them up and also challenge them on some of that. Because I think a lot of young people, and I was this way, they're like, I want to be a manager. And they just think that's the path to growth. But they maybe really don't want to do that. And there's actually a great path to growth as an individual contributor, and they just don't know. So that's the third. The fourth is their big personal goal. So what's the one thing where if you accomplish this personal goal or this trip or this whatever it is, even if you're like, maybe I worked more than I'd like this year, I feel really good that I did that. And so we hold them accountable to that. And then the fifth is pretty simple and straightforward. So it's just, how do you want management to support you? And how do you want us to develop you and show up for you? Because everybody's different. And the way that you would maybe manage me and what would work for me and motivate me is very different than maybe you or somebody else. And so it just allows this back and forth convo where there's feedback coming up. And I think managing up is a really important skill set to encourage in your company and to listen for, because, perception's reality with these things. And I think all of us as entrepreneurs and leaders, we want to deliver for our people and we want them to be successful. And so just asking them and having them kind of give you their perspective and share is a really good, healthy way to assure that we're showing up the right way as leaders for those people.
Yeah. Well, I can attest to these 5 vital signs. I have to confess, after that panel I saw you on, shortly thereafter, we did a company retreat. We all flew to Vegas for the day on a private jet, which was fun. And my operations manager did a worksheet of these 5 things. So everybody filled it out. And then it really did lead to some really good conversations and helped me to see that in a lot of ways I was already aligned with my team because we are small and, I kind of already knew these things, but it really facilitated a good conversation. And to see their revenue goal for the year, their own earning goal, to say, I can probably get you there if we can get to this goal as a company. And it was a really great conversation. So thank you for.
That's awesome. Of course. I think I encourage people to talk to other entrepreneurs, see what people are doing and put their own spin on stuff, right? I mean, I think almost everything in business or even within company culture, somebody else is doing it, somewhere in some way. And the reality is, I think the more companies that are really trying to develop their people, it's better for everybody. It's better for our society, et cetera. So encourage that big time. The other thing that we do and that we couple with those, and this is straight out of the book, Good to Great, I think is the book, but we do personal hedgehogs every year. And this is super valuable. And I actually got introduced to this. A friend of mine was in transition and was trying to find what he wanted to do next. And so did this personal hedgehog, and it really resonated with me. And the hedgehog, it's 3 circles. So we have a little facilitation process for this. And the first one is, what are you the world's best at? What are your superpowers? What are you just super naturally gifted at? We write those things down in the circles. And this is really interesting to facilitate with a direct report, because it's good to see the alignment between the manager and the person. And sometimes the person doesn't recognize and is not nice enough to themselves on where they're really talented. And sometimes their self-awareness, et cetera. The second circle is your passions. And so what are those things that don't feel like work, or where you are just charged up and you love to do? And then the third is kind of our job. It's saying, hey, how do we take your superpowers and your passions and craft a role for you that plays to those 2 things, but maximizes your impact on the company's economic engine? Because at the end of the day, when people are making a big impact, they're usually they're going to earn and do well there. They're going to feel really good and get recognized because they're making big impact, and they're going to drive a ton of value for your organization. So we do that as well. And it really helps us put the right people in the right seats and, determine, hey, maybe we're underutilizing this person's skills here, or we got a quarterback, but they're playing fullback, and they're out of position. And so that has been really valuable, and it couples really, really well with the Vital 5.
I love that. And that's something you do once a quarter, once a year. When do you do that?
We usually do it once a year. And then as new people come on, we'll do it with them. I think it's usually in the first 90 days. And then they're documented. We refer back to them. I mean, this stuff works great because then all of a sudden, let's say you have a team member that's unhappy. The first thing we do is go look at those and look at that alignment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think most of the time when companies turn over good people or there's issues, it's the same as in a friendship or any relationship. It's usually miscommunication.
Right.
For us, it's like we really have great intentions and we don't get it right all the time, but we really want to deliver for the people. I'll tell you, it's the one thing that keeps me up at night, is really wanting to make sure that we're delivering for the people. Mm-hmm. And usually when we don't, it's a miss, and it's miscommunication, or, you know, our EQ was off in this area.
Yeah.
So the more that we have these things that allow us to force this, the better. And I think a lot of employees and team members, they don't want to complain, for example. And so maybe they look at it like that and they don't give you this constructive feedback. Mm-hmm. And so we need to facilitate that, and we need to pull those things out of them so we can get better. Mm-hmm. And so we can deliver for the team members. And so these things help. Other things, one-on-ones, obviously, which we do monthly at least. A lot of times we do those weekly with different team members. Those types of things also help. But I think that trying to figure out these feedback lanes and ways that you can really communicate is the key to having great retention rates, to developing team members, and to getting a relationship where you could also coach somebody hard.
Yeah.
And be very direct with them and help them develop, and vice versa. And when you can do that, it allows you to get better a lot faster, because you can have radical candor and you can be really direct, and people don't take it personally. They know that, we're screwed to get better. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big message for managers and leaders everywhere. It's about everybody being better, not about you're not performing. And so this is a hard conversation. And I think there's a big paradigm shift that's continuing to happen as us millennials and those below us come into the workforce. What would you say to, I go into toxic work environments where, not on purpose, no leader purposefully creates a toxic environment, but they've lost track of their culture, or they never focused on it. I'm just curious if you could speak to one of those clients of mine that's somehow unfolded into leading a culture that's toxic, where there may be bullying or harassment. Can you give them some advice? What might you say to them?
Yeah, I think the first is look in the mirror, and perception's reality. So I think usually their intentions is not to do that. And usually I think there's this big issue in our society where we're kind of breeding this victim mindset. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's very hard for a leader, a CEO, a person, anybody to look in the mirror and be like, hey, I'm not getting the result I want, or my life is not where I want it, and it's because of me. Mm-hmm. They typically want to blame other stuff. Mm-hmm. And if the mentality or the culture in a company or with a person, and I've blamed other stuff many, many times. I catch myself doing this wrong and being the victim and feeling sorry for myself mm-hmm. multiple times a year. Mm-hmm. But overall, it's saying, well, what can I do different? And as the CEO or the founder, I mean, it's on you. Perception's reality. Mm-hmm. So it's all you, and you can blame other things, but it's you. And so to me, it's that, and having a growth mindset versus a fixed or victim mindset. And so I think until that happens, or until a person's willing to do that, mm-hmm. It's just going to be noise. And you could probably do some stuff here and there that, is nice, but it's not going to work. And it's the same thing with team members. Unfortunately, for us, a lot of times when it doesn't work out, it's a person that wants to blame everything else. Mm-hmm. And it's fair sometimes. Like, there are other factors at play, but a lot of times you can't necessarily do anything about that.
Right.
And so showing up and focusing on what is my role in this and what can I do different. And I think for those environments, it's why they're hiring you. Is mm-hmm. hopefully you can be that direct source of truth for them.
Oh, I am.
It's as easy as sitting down one-on-one with the key team members and saying, look, be brutally honest with me. Mm-hmm. What are the most frustrating parts of your job? And what mm-hmm. are the things that you think are broken or that we're doing wrong? And mm-hmm. how can we make you happier in your career and job? And really prying for those things. And you'll have a hit list right off the bat if you do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I do one-on-ones with direct reports or even new hires, every time I get things where I'm like, oh, we're missing here. Let's go now, like fix this. It's a great opportunity. And one of our core values is really seeing problems through an exciting light, which is, wow, this is broken or this is not good. Not like complain, but like, wow, I could fix this. I can make this great and I can drive a ton of value.
Yeah.
And so I think it's that mindset shift, first and foremost. And I think as soon as that happens, you can start to really make progress. But if that doesn't happen, you're usually kind of dead in the water.
Yeah, I love that core value. That I don't know that I've heard that one before. What about virtual teams? And I know we're coming up on time, and I would encourage people to ask questions. I've seen lots of comments, but not questions coming through. But by all means, ask them if you have them. You're across the nation, right? And so you obviously have virtual work. Can you talk to us or give us a couple tips on culture and how you maintain it in a virtual environment spread across the nation?
Yeah, so I think it also goes to my point with a growth mindset, because I was probably the most anti-remote work CEO out there.
Okay.
And I honestly didn't have a great reason for it, other than probably me personally. I've got some ADD and have a hard time sometimes focusing, and probably have not traditionally been as successful working remote. So I took that from me and I said, hey, this is the case for everybody. Huge mistake. And COVID forced me to look at it different and completely open my eyes. And it's been such a blessing, because we can go get the best talent now, the best fit anywhere. It doesn't need to be where we have offices, San Diego, New York, DC. Mm-hmm. And that is a really special thing. And so it is different, and you got to make a lot of effort. So what we've done is we have geopods, for example, where we have different geographic groups and subcultures. As you get bigger, we try to organize the departments more. We have pretty big culture and event budgets, so we can just get people together and do fun stuff outside the office and just get to know each other with your guard down and just being a human. Mm-hmm. We have dedicated people that are for employee experience, employee development, checking in with team members for culture. So it's not easy. And I think there's some things that are really missed and kind of scare me with this remote environment. One of them is I do think it's going to stunt the young generation's growth, because I think for me personally, working in an office at that first job I had, I was in everybody's business. I talked to everybody. I'd ask them, why are you doing this? I would listen in, and I just plunged through kind of osmosis. And I think, when you can't just overhear stuff like that, you do miss that. But I think it's really neat now that people can live wherever they want. They can work however they want. And to me as a company, the key is just don't worry as much about people playing office or how many hours they're working, and just have metrics and the ability to see performance and impact. And if you have those things, it's no problem. And if they want to, go on a lunch break and do some errands, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? But I also think it's risky for mental health. I do think it's led to probably more issues there, because it's hard to have a separation of church and state, for lack of a better term, of when you're working and when you're not. I think the human interaction is valuable. I found myself when working remote, I get a little lazy sometimes, and I put stuff off because I'm like, I don't want to do a conference call, or I don't want to Slack this. So I think there's pros and cons, but to me, it's really exciting, and there's a lot more pros to it than cons. And our plan is to let team members do whatever they want forever. And so if people want to work in the office, we're going to have a great desk for them. They can have cool trinkets and stuff on their desk. It's theirs. Yeah. We cater stuff for them and, have perks. We'd love to have them there. If they want to be a hybrid, come in some days, awesome. If they want to be fully remote, no problem. I think there's events that you want to do and get people together in person, and it's really critical. But on a day-to-day, I think it's a great thing, and it's really neat for people to be able to, work the way that they want.
Yeah, it has been neat to, even in my little team, feel like, what? Why are we all here from 9 to 5? Go do what you need to do. I'm sure you'll work later. We have a question about other book recommendations. What are some of the books that you would recommend?
Yeah, there's a ton that I like. So one that we use to really drive our management and leadership development program, it's a core curriculum at Power Digital. It's about as fast of a read as you're going to find, which is good for somebody like me that has a little probably dyslexia and is a slow reader, as my wife likes to remind me. But it's called the 1 Minute Manager, the new 1 Minute Manager. And why I like it is it's got 3 incredibly easy to put into play. It's a Ken Blanchard book, management practices. So it's goal setting, helping a team member really understand what success looks like. It's hard to succeed if you don't know what that looks like. Then it's praising them. So as they start on that path and they're heading in the right direction, building their confidence up and praising them. And then naturally people get off track and it's redirecting them. So I love that book because you can read it in 45 minutes. I've probably personally read it 100 times. Every time I read it, I remember that I'm getting lazy on certain things and it puts me back in place. But I like that. I like The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's one of my favorite books out there. I like the Amazon book Story, the Everything Store. I love the concept of turning cost centers into profit centers. We're doing that in a neat way right now that is exciting. But to me, there's just a lot of little nuggets. And I think when I get lazy on my reading, which I've kind of done over COVID, to be honest, which is weird to me, I just am not as creative and I'm not as inspired or think bigger. And when I'm doing a good job of my reading, it's not even always what I'm reading. It gets me thinking and more creative and more inspired and more ideas. So for me, it's important and something that I can definitely be more consistent on and do a better job.
I love that. Yeah, I know what you mean about that. You start going, oh yeah, I want to do that. Or what would that look like in my company? What was the one about Amazon? Say it again.
It's the Everything Store. I'm just looking over at the bookshelf there.
The Everything Store? Okay. I had not heard that, so I'll have to check that out. Well, thank you.
Radical Candor is another good one too that we use as part of our core training that I really like.
What is it called?
Radical Candor.
Oh, yes. I've got that one on my bookshelf as well. All right. Well, thank you so much, Grayson. This was really awesome to get the chance to chat with you. And of course, all of us entrepreneurs listening in, want to get to where you're at. And I'm just always happy to get a case study to help prove my point that culture is super important to growth and that you've got to take care of your people and it matters. So thank you for helping me have a case study here.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. Love. I could go on and take up your whole day on this subject. It's the most important to me, and I love it. And it's just our team at Power Digital. I'm sure you see this all the time. It's so special. It's so inspiring and rewarding to get to work with the people that I get to work with and get pushed by them in a great way. So really happy to get a chat with you, and thanks for the time and having me on.
Yeah, thank you. If you ever decide you want to leave Power Digital, you've got a job as a culture consultant at Civility Partners. Nice. All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone.